Okay, gang. I was just working out for a little bit, and something hit me. Okay, not physically, but something to talk about. Okay, and just want to apologize because working out and seasonal change, my allergies. So if I cough a little bit or a little bit, it's okay. It's the allergies and my asthma. So I'm going to get through this fast because there's a lot of information here. Okay, and this is science. Okay, science and doctors. This isn't, ex heroin addict brainworm guy talk here. So, and in the description, I'm going to put some of the links that I have. This way you can look it up, and they're not links to like Joe's website somewhere. Okay, they're actual links to actual medical things, medical sites. So there's always a whole lot of talk going around. Transgender, well, they're men in dress, biological male. We don't want any biological male, and it's sex and we don't want the gender and blah, blah, all of that stuff. Well, you know what? Sex and gender are not interchangeable words. Okay? This is, like Matt Damon said in the movie The Martian, I'm going to science the shit out of this. Okay? So, listen up because I'll probably go through this a little bit quickly because there's a lot of information. I looked up some things that I had, from my, past medical training as well as online and stuff like that. So, sex versus gender, they are not interchangeable. They are two totally different apples and oranges. Okay, now, what's the difference? Sex is based on natal findings, which is at birth, where the doctor, here comes the baby, and the doctor looks and the doctor sees external reproductive organs. Congratulations, have a boy. Congratulations, have a girl. That's sex, natal at birth. Okay. However, biological component, it's not just the physical, but it's also hormonal differences. Now, the hormones for females, primary hormones are estrogen and progesterone. For males, they are the primary hormone is testosterone, and they do kick in at the beginning of puberty, where testosterone starts to spike, and prepubescent boys, preteens, their voices change because testosterone lengthens the vocal cords. Vocal range drops. There's also facial hair growth, increased muscle mass. For females, there's increase. It starts to have breast growth. It's called the Tanner scale of breast development. There's also body fat redistribution throughout the body, wider hips. Females usually have a higher percent body fat than males do. So these are some of the hormonal differences, and a lot of these happen. Now, how does the baby get born and become, congratulations, have a boy, congratulations, have a girl, is in vitro. With the fetus, it starts to develop, and some of the organs start to develop and produce either testosterone, in which case you have a boy, versus estrogen and progesterone, you have a girl, like that. So that starts it starts acting on the fetus in vitro. But the secondary sex characteristics, the external, start at puberty. Okay, so that's where that comes. But you also want to look at the biology, the genetic markers. So and just so we know, everybody says, oh, well, genetic. Okay, so with the chromosomes, females have XX chromosomes. Males are XY. And that's it. It's not that simple. Welcome to not just the human race, but welcome to the biology of the planet, the fauna, all of the animals, including us. Yes, we are animals. We're called mammals. Yes, versus reptiles or non-mammalian. So just to say XX versus XY, that you can't just say that. It's not that simple. Okay, and It's not defined by politics. It's not defined by politics. Sex is not defined by politics because there's so many variations. This is called diversity. It's all around us. Diversity is all over the place, all around us. Now, there are different developments, different types of development, and the markers are not always clear cut. For example, you have somebody, an individual is born and they might have genitals or internal sex organs that don't fit the binary, the male-female binary, 1 and 0, 1 and 0, binary, male-female. Those two boxes, there are a lot of boxes. Okay, those people are called intersex. They don't fit into this box or this box. There's a whole lot of boxes. Genetic.org, which did a whole huge study. There are a lot of chromosomal differences. Okay, like I said, males are XY. However, males can be born with 3 X chromosomes. Just like females can be born, females are XX, they can be born with a Y chromosome. There are different variations. This is called aneuploidy. aneuploidy, aneuploidy, which is genetic differences. Now, every single cell in our body, every trillions and trillions of cells in our body, we have 46 chromosomes. That's it. Every cell has 46 chromosomes. So when you talk about XX versus XY, scientifically it's labeled as 46.XX. Those have 46.XY. Okay? But again, there are variations as aneuploidy. It can include an additional X or an additional Y. For example, trisomy is 47.XXY or 47.XYY or any variation of those 3. Then you also have tetrasomies, which is 4 sex chromosomes, in which case it's 48.XXYY or 48.XXXY. And again, any variation of these. So there's a whole lot of genetic differences here. So to sit here and say, okay, males are XY and females are XX, that's how we can tell them apart. No, you can't. No, you cannot. Okay, there's so many variations to it. And to simplify it to that basic level, it's just ignorance. I'm sorry. It's ignorance. And this you can read in any biology book. Any book. Hopefully that wasn't banned, but any book on human biology will tell you this. It's right there. Now, the American Society for Reproductive Medicine says that this sexual differentiation, like I said, occurs in field development as a result of the hormones and genetics, but it develops variations of these genetics and hormonal influences. And, quote, such natural variation, which is neither a disease nor a disorder, illustrates the complexity of biological sex. Illustrates the complexity of biological sex. So again, to simplify it down to XXXY, and that's it, you can't. It cannot be done. I don't care what brainworm guy says, cannot be done. Next, gender. Okay, that was the apple, now the orange. Gender. Gender is a social construct. Social construct, and it's based on the societal norms of that time. And it relates to how a person identifies. Not the biological, not sex. Gender. Identity. Based on societal norms, which changes. Societal norms change. Perfect example. Heels. Women wear heels, shoes with, the stilettos or the stacked heels and, all of this and everything like that. Well, in the 10th century, heels were actually worn by men. The cavalry soldiers, This way, because with the heels, they could secure their feet in the stirrups of the horses on their saddles. So that was 10th century. Women started wearing heels 800 years later in the 18th century Europe as a fashion statement, and then reemerged again in the 19th century, another 100 years. Guess what? And why did it reemerge? For pornography. Because men like to see the shape of a woman's leg as she's wearing heels. As in the 19th century. What about the colors? If I say to you, pink, what does that bring to mind? Oh, nice little girl, pink, blue is, nice little boys' room with the blue and everything like that. Sorry, no. That didn't come about until like the mid-20th century. Really, it started around 1918, but it really took hold after World War II. That pink was before that for boys, because pink was seen as a color of strength. But why did it switch? Well, post-World War II, advertisers, they wanted gender-specific clothing and they wanted to increase sales of that clothing. So they flipped it. It was an advertising ploy. That's post-World War II. And if any of you guys are watching this, and if you were in the business world, back in, I probably want to say like the mid-90s or so, like the mid-90s or so, what was a power suit for a man in business? Gray suit, white shirt, pink tie. Pink was the power color. It went from red to pink. Pink was the power color. Okay? So that gender is the societal norms shift. And that's what gender is based on. It's based on my identity throughout the societal norms. Society is always changing. Another link that I'll put in, The Independent Lens, which is a documentary series on PBS. Great interactive site, a world map, showing all of the cultures, the different cultures that have gender incongruities. And they have like little pins on each place on the map. You click on the pins and it'll show you, there's a list of about 35 or so different cultures ranging all the way back through the Ottoman Empire of gender incongruity. And it was actually revered. For example, the Navajo Indians. We were two-spirited. What we call transgender people now, they would say we're two-spirited. Two-spirited. In Hawaii, the Hawaiian culture, it's called kunahina. And in Japan, get this one. In Japan, the Yukikihara. These people are often represent the country in global cultural events. Why? Because the two-spirited, because that mix, they're revered. People are revered as spiritual and religious leaders because they have greater insights into the way the world works and the way the spiritual and religious works, because they could see from different perspectives. Transgender people didn't just start popping up. We've been here for a really long time. Okay, so you got to get used to it. So separate this thing out. Come on, sex versus gender. I mean, you have to understand the differences here. And once you start understanding the differences, and especially with the sex, and especially with the genetics, like I said, it's not just XX and XY. There's a whole lot of differences there. So to simplify it to just those two, I'm sorry. You can't. You just cannot do it. Okay, so this was just a little bit of science for you. Okay, now, I highly suggest that if you want to know more about this, you look into it. And again, don't go to Wikipedia or places like that. Go to the NIH, National Institute of Health. Go to, like I have over here, American Society for Reproductive Medicine. Go to medical journals, Medical News Today. Go to all of these places that are reputable places. And pretty soon you're going to sit there and go, wow, this is not what everybody is talking about. If you want to learn more, come on, hit me up. We'll go grab a cup of coffee. Bye.